Good morning, this is the Eager Beaver Show.
You are listening to a True North Eager Beaver Media Incorporated podcast. The True North Eager Beaver podcasts are proudly brought to you by our founding sponsors, the Misfit Mysteries from Corvid Moon Publishing, your source for science fiction, fantasy, and cozy mysteries featuring a broad diversity of characters, CanadianTarot.com, your uniquely Canadian online eclectic tarot community, and the Peppermaster, hot pepper sauces made from farm-fresh ingredients to thrill your taste buds and expand your mind. Well, good morning and hello, kids, and welcome to season 4 and episode number 546 of the Daily Beaver Morning Show here on the Crier Media Network. Da, 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 da. Yes, it is the last day of what has been, for many, probably including Mother Earth and the planet and the entire universe, one that's been a little weird, to say the least. Testing, trying, exasperating, unnerving, destabilizing. Let's just put it this way. If you had a very good year this year, you swam against the tide or against stream. You've been a salmon this year. Because oh no, what?
From Uncover the News, it's a WTF year. Wednesday the 1st, Thursday the 2nd, Friday the 3rd. Last WTF year was 2020. Remember how 2020 went?
Which one's the WTF year? 2024, 2025?
2025 will be.
Oh no.
Yeah.
No. No. You can't. You are not allowed to start the show on that tone. Get Uncover. No. No. Let us get through 2024 first. No. Bad kid. Naughty kid.
It's as the song goes from U2, nothing changes on New Year's Day.
Oh my word.
Psychologically, for many people,
yes.
It does, but in reality, nothing changes. It's just another day.
It's a day that follows the previous one, just like every other.
That's it.
Ah, man. Jeez. Wow. Okay. Woo. Gee, man. No, don't get my heart pumping that quickly this early in the morning.
And it's the year of the snake.
Go figure, right? Because why not? Because why not? Yeah. Of course, we say because why not? Because we're thinking of the word snake, of course, what it represents in our culture. So it might not be the same. But yes. All right. I'm your host, the Eager Beaver, pronouns he, him, hey, Mr. Beaver A. And just a little note on that one. We had somebody post a comment in our chat yesterday. You lost me at pronouns. And I was like, it's not a loss.
Yeah, my response was, did the pronoun hurt you?
It's not a loss if you don't want to hear what I have to say, because I start the show by letting everybody know that they are welcome here.
Yeah.
By saying, here are my pronouns. So if you happen to have pronouns, I am happy to use them. I'm the type of person that likes to refer to people in the way that they like to be referred to because I'm not a douche, which is really the first commandment. If you put all 10 of them together
Mm.
like this and just make them one commandment, I learned that God was a Scottish drag queen this year, so I went to see the show. And the number one commandment is don't be a douche, which happens to be my life motto. Don't be a douche. So if you think that everything that comes out of my mouth is not even worth hearing just because I choose to not be a douche, it's not a loss for me.
Mm-hmm.
Just saying. All right. So, but that was a fun moment yesterday. And I don't know what happens. Maybe today is the day that we get a little extra light, 9 days after solstice, for those who celebrated that. Because today at 7 something, I actually saw a little bit of light over the buildings in my area, which yesterday I did not. It was still pitch black. So it looks like it's going to be a nice day here at the Beaver Lodge because I could actually see some day.
Not so much here in the nation's capital.
Yeah, yours is grayer.
Yeah, it's gray, wet, ugly. It's been raining for the last couple of days. It's just been miserable. I mean,
it was raining here too yesterday, but not a deep rain, just like a little drizzle on and off, on and off.
Christmas Eve
Or
and
light rain.
Christmas Day were cold, wintry. There was lots of snow on the ground. It looked like a postcard. There were people out playing on the outdoor rink on Christmas Eve and Christmas Day, which I thought was wonderful. Like, that's totally Canadian Christmas. But it's been raining the last couple of days. The ice is in terrible shape and the snow is almost all gone. And it's been well above zero. So, yeah, it's not looking good.
We did a little skating on an outdoor rink in Toronto when we were there. We also did one on an indoor. We went skating twice. I actually went skating more times last week, than I did in the last 2 years combined. Oh my God, last 5 years combined because COVID, there's no.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I didn't get out last year and right now it's not looking good.
My feet hurt like hell.
Well, I was thinking with the cold we had and the outdoor rinks being open, they might have been able to get the canal in good shape, but this recent warm spell has kind of destroyed that.
Yeah. So, gorgeous day here at the Beaver Lodge. As you can hear, my good friend Mr. Grizzly is here. So, Mr. Grizzly, how is your mental health doing today, sir?
So I don't think the mental health is terrible right at this very moment. That may change later as the day progresses. I had every intention of doing an ASMR show last night and sat down around 7:30, something like that, had some dinner, and then the next thing I knew it was 10:30. So I got up and went to bed, and Lola was having a bit of an anxiety attack. She does that frequently. I think she's reminiscing about being in shelter probably. So I tried to comfort her for a while, finally got her calmed down, and then I couldn't calm down. So I've maybe slept 3 hours last night. So not exactly great. But
Okay.
I'll be better eventually.
All right. I'm doing okay. Yesterday I was very, very tired because it was a short night. And I really wanted to go to bed very early at 7, but I knew that would make it up. So I would make it such that I would be up at 2 or 3 again. So I pushed through a little bit and fortunately had a great night's sleep because the alarm had to rouse me today. And if we did a pre-show, Kits and Cubs, you would have seen me swallow the entire planet about 5 times. Just big yawning. So I'm almost entirely with you, but I'm not fully awake yet this morning. So hang on to your sippy cups because this could be fun. Because when I'm not fully awake, I tend to do really silly things. All right. Before we hoping to keep it maybe a little lighter today. Don't know if we'll get into the recap today or save it tomorrow. Save it all for tomorrow. But there is a couple of news items going on in the world about which you should be aware. And I am going to start with oh, come on. help me out here with what's going on here in Canada. Oh my God, yes. That's why I refer to him as Pepe Le Pew, or Pepe Le Poilievre.
Yeah, well, except this is Trudeau and the Liberals, though.
Yes, but
Yeah,
yes, Trudeau and the Liberals. But I've seen the same thing with the Poilievre and
yeah.
and Canada. You just change the little wording on Pepe.
Exactly.
Yeah. So it seems that there is more pressure being applied upon the prime minister, still relatively gentle pressure, considering what the occasion would call for if you truly did want him to leave.
Mhm.
Because if you truly wanted him to leave and wanted him to leave now, right, it would be a whole bunch of cabinet ministers and a whole bunch of backbenchers, not only writing letters saying, we really think you should go. It's like, if you do not go, we will do this to you. And that is not happening yet. So I don't know if listen, if you really want something done, you do it.
Mhm.
So this is, I don't know, again, if there is a level of deference or something, because, again, the reality is that he owes nobody anything, and there is no mechanism to make him leave. It's all his decision. And, well, I mean, I guess you could, be strident and be mean and all that kind of stuff in public and threaten and all that kind of stuff. But he is still the one signing the nomination papers if he stays. So if you did intend to run again, say you want him to go, but not so bad that you're not willing to run again, then you know. But the Liberal Atlantic Caucus, according to iPolitics' Marco Vigliotti, has been calling for the Prime Minister Justin Trudeau to resign as party leader. As we mentioned this yesterday, New Brunswick MP Wayne Long, who has been long on the record, I think since July, saying that the Prime Minister has to go, and public record. So, I mean, he's not going out on a limb here. Posted online, a letter caucus chair, Cody Blois, sent to Trudeau informing him of the decision. Prime Minister, we are indebted to you for your service to Canada and to our party, and it is that spirit of service that we are confident that you will accept our request and preserve our legacy. So again, it's a, we love you, we respect you, but for the good of the party, you really do need to go.
This is just a bizarre time in history, if you ask me. This is somewhat reminiscent of what they did to Jean Chrétien. And then Paul Martin was prime minister for a short time period. I just think it's mutiny from within. And is it the center-right liberals that are doing this? Where is this
Most likely
from? Most likely, it's the center-right liberals that are doing this, and I think in many cases they're being influenced by social media and polls and constant barrage of bullshit we're seeing from mainstream media saying, "Oh, the country is falling apart." I mean, you have mainstream media reports talking about how Montreal has fallen. Oh, you mean that 1-hour protest that the police took care of?
Yeah.
Montreal is being invaded. Toronto has fallen.
Burning.
It's like, come on, man. Stop
Yeah.
writing headlines that the sky is falling.
Yeah. So the assumption that it's center-right, I mean, we're seeing Christy Clark having, coffee with John Manley, and they're posting pictures about it. So I'm guessing it is the center-right movement. Chrystia Freeland is more on the right economically than is the Prime Minister.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, there are two theories going on, two hypotheses going on. Was one that, the anti-woke thing has really taken on. So, just stop talking about anything woke, quote unquote, or anything progressive, anything environment, anything helping other people out, giving equity to the more vulnerable. Stop talking about anything that, just talk about pure economics, just affordability. That's it. Take a couple of steps to the right economically, show that you're not, blowing out money on all that DEI stuff and, and that climate stuff, and you'll be fine. And then there's the other, which is not getting a lot of hype and not a lot of airtime, but hypothesis is like, no, woke is not done. Lean into it.
Well,
lean
remember,
into it hard. Go
woke is an
UBI. Go full green. Go, lean into it hard. Commit to the path. Like really
Woke is an
commit and
acronym.
see what happens.
Woke is an acronym. Wise,
Yes.
observant, knowledgeable, educated. Woke.
Mhm. So nobody seems to be. That's why I keep on saying, maybe either the prime minister knows something, or maybe the prime minister has a plan to lean hard to the left. Like this, they call him a leftist anyway, so embrace it and try to convince more people that are even more on the left to come to you. It's like, what, you've opened the door, you've done this, now it's time to really fully commit. I mean, you could open that as a campaign path.
Mm-hmm.
The conservatives, it doesn't give them anything more. They're going to go, see, he's just going to spend. Well, they're already saying he's spending like a drunken sailor. He's just going to do more of it. So, I mean, it doesn't give them any extra avenue. So there really is nothing to lose in that sense. You're not going to open up another flank. If you try to go center, take a step to right, then you have the conservatives say, oh yeah, right, as if they're going to do it. Come on, have you seen how much they spent so far? Don't believe them that. They're not going to do that. And you're going to have the NDP, see, they're abandoning you. So, but you could go center, take a step to the right in that sense, and all the red Tories, blue conservative, blue liberals that were kind of, nope, we're done with this one. They're not paying attention to the affordability stuff. I don't really want to vote Pierre Poilievre, but they're the only ones that are talking dollars and cents. So I'm going to do that. You might reel some of them back in. So those are the two hypotheses, but you can't play to both at the same time. You got to pick one. You got to pick a lane. And at the moment, this party is sort of in the middle at the moment, like this. And if you're going to make that type of move, you got to make it like a bold announcement. And I mean, he's got people, right? He's got Nate Erskine-Smith, very, very credible on that front. So if he, and he elevated a lot of people with some experience with NSICOP. I mean, David McGuinty was the chair of the NSICOP committee, and then there's another MP that he's elevated to cabinet who was a member of NSICOP at one point. So that's what I'm saying. If I'm looking at the shuffle and that type of stuff, if he decides, I'm going full on green, I'm going full on the new economy, new vaccines, mRNA, EV technology, AI, that stuff all full in there. And we are making sure on top of that, for you, those of you who are conservative, we're going to go full in on that 2% for NATO. We're going to, instead of doing it by 2032, we're going to do it by 2028 or 2029. Yes. There's a clear path there. UBI, add that to it. Like this, for a very unique platform that would get, I mean, it would certainly wrestle the agenda away from Pierre Poilievre. It would get the media talking about other things. Mm-hmm. Because they would have to cover those things. So there is a path there if he decides to go there, but that's a bold path. He could even come back with electoral reform again, and rather than saying the last one with first past the post, specifically say, I know I said it before, but this time you've seen how the situation has changed. Last time I said, open reform and left it everyone. And you said, you know what, I should have just done it. Well, if you give me this time I will just do it. It will be ranked ballots. Boom. And run on it. That might be his best opportunity if he's going solo now, because he has to completely change everything that's being said about him. He's got to take another new path, and he's got to put these big, bold policies in the window that will get tongues wagging, to which conservatives would have to react.
Mm. Well, and we need to remember, too, that he wanted ranked ballot. Right. Everybody said it's the end of first past the post. It's going to be proportional representation. Like, no, he wanted ranked.
He never promised that.
He never promised that. Those are words that were put into his mouth. He never promised that.
Yep.
That was never what was on the docket ever.
And that was the danger with that strategy from him, because the movement in Canada that was the most organized was the movement for proportional representation. There had already been for a couple of referenda. There's a whole group called Fair Vote Canada that exists pretty much just to push that as the only option. And the NDP and the Greens are full on board with them. They've been talking about that form to the exclusion of anything else right from the get-go. Proportional representation. So nobody had really ever made a case in this whole discussion in Canada for ranked ballots, so that, essentially that one's the new kid on the block, even though every single party uses it to determine who their leader is. So, I mean, you would think that a system that's good enough to vote for the leadership of a party among the membership of a party would be good enough for the membership of Canada to vote for its leader. But apparently it's not. Don't know why, but apparently it's not. So if he did that, he could say, look, I have a bold vision. There'll be some people in the party that would not be down with that, who would leave. There's some people that would. He would recruit some people, some new talent that would be really down with that'd be willing to sell. The party would have a breath of fresh air. There is a path, and path that's not ignorable, because, you can do something like, I'm going to give you a $250 check and a GST vacation. That makes the news for a couple of days, and then the media goes back and ignoring it. But if you put like 4 or 5 big policies in the window like that, we're going to meet our NATO commitment 3 years earlier. We are going full in on green. We're bringing in a UBI. There's no time to talk about axe the tax. You've given them so much fresh new material. And all the other parties are now dancing to your tune, reacting to your policies, because you're driving the narrative. So that's really the only way out for him, if he's really insisting on seeing this through. Because I don't think that him doing similar, but going the center right rather than taking another step left, is going to work for him. And what's certainly not going to work for him is what I heard him say in an interview. It wasn't a year-end interview because he hasn't done any like this, but they've been, showing other interviews, and they said, another mandate. So what's, changes and stuff like that. He goes, no, it's the continuation of it. No. Do not talk about continuing anything. People don't like where things are. Don't continue. It's not about continuing, because that's a guaranteed slip and slide down to an electoral loss. It's like, just, there's a lot of things that have happened, and the world is changing, and we need a bold new vision to bring Canada to where the puck is going. That you would have a path. But just say, no, we got to continue doing the good work that we started, because people are not appreciating the good work you've done. So don't run on continuing stuff that people are not appreciating. There's no path for you there. Because even though objectively the stuff is good and we should continue it, that's not the frame.
I wouldn't even
That's
say
not a winning frame.
I mean, just period. It's good. It's not even an objective statement. It's a factual statement. It's good for the vast majority of Canadians, but nobody seems to be paying attention, even though they're trying to bring light to the fact that Pierre Poilievre will end all of these programs. As he has said time and time again, he will bring an end to all of them because he doesn't give a damn. What? That doesn't seem to matter, because nobody is actually highlighting that in mainstream media. All they ever talk about is, it's time to go, it's time to go, it's time to go. You have a percentage of the population that are convinced that Fidel Castro is his father and that he's a dictator, which is mind-blowing to me, that you could actually think those things and live in reality. You need some chlorpromazine, or well, it's also known as Thorazine, which is a drug that treats psychosis.
Because I've never lived in a dictatorship, but from what I've read and what I've seen is, if you would go on a social media,
oh my God,
or on a media platform and actually say that the person that's leading your country is a dictator, you either don't make it home, or as soon as you make it home, there's a knock on your door.
Yeah.
So the fact that you get to say it, and live to tell the tale that you said it,
irony is lost on these folks. They do not
is proof inherent that you are not living in a dictatorship and under tyranny. The fact that you get to say that and then still go on and live your merry life. Dictators are not too fond about being referred to as dictators. Turns out, kind of like racists. They seem to get really mad when you call them racist. Well, dictators too, apparently. Because their image of themselves is completely different. And, in this case, when we're talking about the Prime Minister, it's like, nobody wants to vote for, but why don't you appreciate all the good things I've done for you?
Yeah. It's not working.
It's a little needy and a little thirsty.
You do realize that yesterday was the 15th anniversary of Prime Minister Stephen Harper shutting down Parliament until March? He waited until after the Vancouver Winter Olympics.
Yep.
Prorogued Parliament on December 30th, 2009.
Yep. Remember, and you brought us the information a couple of shows ago, Mr. Grizzly, that former Prime Minister, thankfully, former Prime Minister Harper, prorogued 4 times during his tenure, including 3 years in a row.
Yes.
So you're going to have a lot of people break out into hives should the Prime Minister decide to prorogue. He's been Prime Minister for 9 years. He will have prorogued once.
If it happens.
If it happens. And they are going to lose their minds. It's like, we're old enough to remember. Thank you.
We have this thing called Google. We also have this thing. It's the National Public Record. There's the Hansard, along with our national broadcaster, CBC, that has stories about all of this. All of it is archived. It's all available for us to find. And the first person that shouts fake news gets a punch in the fucking face. It happened. It took place. Stop denying it.
Yep. 4 times. Even if you denied it once, you could turn around and go, okay, what about these 3 other times?
What about the 3 other times?
Oh, well, that wouldn't count. Oh, really?
Yeah.
You found the 4 exceptions to the rule.
See, I just...
Okay.
Here's the thing. I think the Liberal government is finished. I do. The Liberal Party, I should say. I think the government of Canada is going to be is going to fall, but maybe not, because there's a lot of members of there's a lot of NDP MPs have said we're not voting with Poilievre because we are fundamentally opposed to it. Charlie Angus was very vocal about that just the other day. Jagmeet Singh said he's going to vote with Poilievre to non-confidence, but Charlie Angus said absolutely no freaking way. And I feel that there's a lot of other members of that party that are in that same boat. They're like, no, we're not going to hand the government over to him. We know what a tyrant he is. We know what he will do. So I'm not in favor of proroguing Parliament, to be honest with you. I never have been. That being said, if it needs to take place before the information from the foreign interference is released to the public, then prorogue away. Because I don't think we should have any confidence vote or any sort of election of any type until after we find out what's in that report.
Mm-hmm. I concur.
And remember, the leader of the loyal opposition does not have clearance to read the report, and he refuses to get it. He refuses to get it because he has some phony excuse about saying how the Prime Minister will just stamp it top secret, then he can't talk about it. But Jagmeet Singh and Elizabeth May and Francois Blanchette have all been able to talk about it.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And here's the thing, too. That he won't get it is one thing.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? That's bad enough.
Yes.
But what else is happening is that even though he's not saying it himself, he has all his minions going around saying he doesn't need to get it because he already has it. Outright lying to the nation. And he is saying nothing to correct the record. He is letting the lie stand. And that made me think of something we were discussing yesterday when we were discussing the video of the Prime Minister being accosted and all the people apologizing because the people are, one of the reasons for that is like, well, you point out, we don't know where Skippy has been the last 2 Christmas vacations. Well, that's because he's not the Prime Minister. We don't pay for his vacations. Well, we don't pay for the Prime Minister's vacations either. We pay for the security detail.
Yeah.
And you're really going to tell me that in a nation, a G7 nation, that we only care about with whom the Prime Minister is associating and whether or not he would have ethical conflicts that we would not want to know that of all the party leaders who also aspire to be prime minister, if they're doing anything while they are leader of their opposition parties that might be unethical, that could be acted upon when they become prime minister. Should that be the case? No, we don't start looking at people until they become prime minister. We have no reason to wonder about the ethical dealings of the leader of the opposition, what deals he or she might be making while they are leader of the opposition, trying to become prime minister. Really?
Yeah.
We would just leave all of that open? Like, this is logical? That level of scrutiny should only apply to a prime minister in a parliament where we have 338 elections and we have 338 equal MPs, of whom the prime minister is first among equals, that this level of scrutiny with regard to ethics and conflict of interest and who you're making deals with and who you're talking with and who you're getting in bed with politically should only apply to the prime minister and nobody else. We should not expect that scrutiny of all of our MPs. Particularly party leaders, the ones that are in position to make. Really? Wow.
Yeah.
I would not want you running my company.
I wouldn't want him leading a one-car parade.
We only need to check whether or not the CEO is stealing from the till. Never mind the chief financial officer, chief information officer, or the middle managers, or no. It's like, it doesn't matter. Like, it's the only person that matters is if the president is stealing from the company, then we have a problem. But if everybody else is fine, really? Okay. And here's the other thing. The people who made that video, they are disseminating it. They are marketing it. The prime minister's children are probably on social media.
Oh, yes.
So all the people that are like the prime minister brought this upon himself, invited this abuse and harassment and stalking, deserves it because he shouldn't have been somewhere public taking a vacation and having pictures of it taken or video taken or anything on public, because it's rubbing salt in the wounds, something he intentionally did just because he could. That complete unacceptable behavior is justified. And those people who did that are circulating it and making money off it. But you have no problem with that. Okay. So we should not be looking at the leader of the opposition. And when politicians get accosted in a physically or verbally aggressive manner, in that way, we should hold the person who got accosted blamed for being in a position or for having done something worthy of being accosted, and not the people that are doing the accosting and filming it and marketing and profiting off it, making money off it. Okay. The responsibility only lies with one person for all things. Nobody else is liable for their actions, just one. Then we should only care about one. That seems to me a really stupid position or a stupid way to go about life. Only one member of your household is responsible for anything everybody else does.
We need to teach basic civics in this
Come on.
again.
Come on.
This
is not serious.
Well, it's disturbing to me how many people in this country fail to understand how our system works, number one. And number two, we have members of parliament who are perpetuating the myths around it's all Justin Trudeau's fault. But excuse me, healthcare is a provincial matter. Housing is a provincial matter at the municipal level. But you're blaming the prime minister for these things. So what did he do? He took over housing because it needed to be done. Because the government hasn't been in housing since, what?
Started to get out of it in the 80s.
Yeah,
but has been completely out since Harper finished it all off.
correct. It started under Mulroney, went further under Crutchin, and Harper just put the final nail in that coffin. Well, now the federal government is back in public housing, which is necessary and needed. And hopefully, along with other programs like $10 a day daycare, the school lunch programs that are being rolled out across the country, national pharmacare and national dental care, which are being rolled out across the country. Over 1 million Canadians have signed up for dental care, but you had Pierre Poilievre said, and where did you get that information? Well, it's on the government. Oh, from the government. Oh, you're going to believe that?
From where he got his information to say that 97% of Canadians weren't on it. Because conveniently forgetting that the program is not supposed to target 100%. I mean, it targets 100% of Canadians, and that 100% of Canadians are eligible should they not have the insurance or whatnot. But when you take out all the people that have the insurance that is required, it's like, now I say, yeah, there will always be a significant chunk of the population that program has not helped because they did not require the help, not because the program sucks.
The idea behind the program is to help those who don't have any sort of coverage or insurance. That is the point of it.
If we had a country where 100% of the people did not have insurance before, it says this hasn't delivered anything to 97. Okay, you might have a point. Then again, we would turn around and would say, well, it's been 1 year. I'm pretty sure that all the dentists in Canada cannot pass 41 million or 42 million people through their chairs in 1 year.
Yeah.
Sir, there's something called time. It works in a certain way.
Oh, but those are semantics.
Yeah, really. Jeez.
Let's just bend the space-time continuum to suit my narrative.
So, but when you say, right, like this, like even take away the civics part, right? Just your basic family. Let's go full conservative. The man is the head of the castle. It's like, so your daughter does something that she should not have done, but you, the head of the castle, you're the one that's going to go to jail for it.
Yeah.
How do you feel about that? Well, no. Personal responsibility. No. One person is responsible for everything that everybody else does. Those are your rules. So, sir, please turn around and put your cheek up against the wall. It's not how the world works. So they want, but that's what, when they press that button, that rage button, and you bypass your logic center, and you go into the feelings, it's like, all of a sudden it's like, whoa, wait a minute. Yeah, he should have done that. Yeah, he should. Oh, wait a minute. Whoa. Oh, but, well, yeah, of course he wouldn't have done that. So you have to stop and think, right? These people want you to react. Now, the members of this Atlantic Caucus that want the Prime Minister to leave, but not so badly that they're willing to actually put the screws, wrote this in the letter. December 23rd, 2024, delivered electronically. Prime Minister, the Atlantic Liberal Caucus met this morning following what has been a difficult week for the government and the Liberal Party. I have been instructed by my colleagues to write this letter to you as their chair and representative. The discussion this morning centered on the need for you to resign as the leader of the Liberal Party and to urgently allow for a process to determine a new leader to replace you. Prime Minister, your leadership through the past 9 years will absolutely leave a positive and consequential legacy on Canada. Our colleagues this morning expressed their deep personal affection for you, their pride in our work as a Liberal team, but also their deep concern that without a leadership change, that progress will be lost under a Pierre Poilievre-led government. The country could face instability, notably from an economic threat and the potential of a 25% U.S. tariff on Canadian imports from the incoming American administration, and opposition parties have signaled their desire to move a non-confidence motion at earliest opportunity. Simply put, time is of the essence, and our caucus is of the view that it is not tenable for you to remain as the leader and that we need to allow for the necessary conversations on transition to take place. In that regard, I have been instructed to write to our National Caucus chair, calling for an urgent National Caucus meeting in early January to discuss next steps, including whether Provision 44(d)(i) of the Liberal Party of Canada's Constitution should be invoked to allow caucus to be involved in appointing an interim leader. Prime Minister, we are indebted to you for your service to Canada and to our party, and it is that spirit of service that we are confident that you will accept our request and preserve your legacy. Respectfully, Cody Blois, MP Kings-Hants, Chair of the Atlantic Liberal Caucus, CC to Brenda Shanahan, MP for Châteauguay-Lacolle. And it would seem that a few days later, the members of the Ontario caucus got together and came to a similar conclusion. So, slow motion dominoes falling, but still nobody willing to drop the big one. Now, one could say reasonably, given that it is still the holiday season, it would be a little classless to do that during this period. So that might not happen until the 6th or so. I think the 6th is the first Monday in January. So we might have to wait until about then before something really starts happening. Some people might get a bit of an itchy trigger finger maybe around the 3rd, 4th. Who knows? But Parliament's not resuming until the 27th, and full resumption of activities post all the Christmases doesn't happen until the 7th, because, like I said, there are still some cultures and religions that are celebrating until I think around this. I think Epiphany, the 6th, for us in Catholic religion is, or might be Orthodox in certain ones, and even different Orthodox is different things, because I know that Orthodox Romanian is different than Orthodox Russian and Orthodox Greek. So there are different days for stuff. So, but yeah, usually by the first week of January, it's pretty much all over. So we'll see what happens, kids and cubs, on this one. But there is more grumbling from the overall caucus, and it is rising to the surface. So yes, if the Prime Minister does not have something up his sleeve, or if it isn't a case of him just waiting until the report comes down so he can be the one that receives it and responds to it, and again, if there is indeed something on it, then seizes upon it and then runs with it, because only he would know. And that's one thing that he would not be able to tell his caucus, right? It's like, come on, man, give us something, give us some reassurances. And as we mentioned on the show, he can't tell us, says, hold on. It's like, I got something. Like, just trust me, there'll be something in that report and you'll all be all right. He can't say that. And he probably is not even allowed to say, guys, really, don't worry. Wink. Now let's talk about that report. Yeah. Wink.
Definitely can't do that.
Definitely can't do that. Can't hint, can't suggest, can't infer, can't all break out your thesaurus for all words referring to say or telling. He can't do any of them. Can't suggest, can't hint, can't all of them. He just can't. No. So like I said, it could be he knows something like this, and everybody's like, it's going to come down. Everybody's going to go, oh, that's why. Okay, we're behind you now.
And that may very well be the case.
And even if that's very much the case, they still might not be going, oh, so that's why. Okay, we need to deal with that, but still not with you. That is an option.
Well,
thank you for bringing that to our attention.
I mean,
but you still got to go.
The question now, though, is who is the next? Who steps in? Is it Chrystia Freeland? She's the deputy PM. Does she step in?
I don't think she is anymore.
I don't know. But Sean Fraser has already decided that's it. He's stepping out of federal politics because he wants.
I mean, he could do the
family.
It would be good in that sense, because I mean, he would be finishing the term and he'd have no chance of coming back. So there's no way he would be running for the leadership, which would make everybody else comfortable who wants to run for leadership. But yeah, it's got a John Fraser, Bob Ray type that would be in the party that's serious and people, but has no intention of running for the leadership either. So it couldn't be Dominic LeBlanc, for example, who's Leadership aspirations may have been tarnished a little bit because it seems that he stayed overnight at a residence of the Irvings, which is
Yeah.
right.
Suspect.
Well, not suspect in the sense he's got an ethics screen for a long time because, I mean, if you're in New Brunswick politics, everybody knows the Irvings at some point and has some dealing with them in some way, shape, or form. And
There's no way around it.
Yes, and let's be honest. If you are in politics, odds are, if you have a seat in the House of Commons, you have at least one attachment to one wealthy family somewhere.
Well,
and if you are in cabinet or you're a shadow minister, you definitely, or opposition critic, I should say, because we don't have shadow ministers, you definitely have a connection to
there's no way around
a wealthy family somewhere. Still doesn't mean you should be sleeping at their house, though. Like, really, dude, come on.
Not the best idea, unless he came out and said, "Well, we'd had some wine with dinner, and I didn't want to drive." Uber, a cab.
Well, again, depends. New Brunswick. They might. Apparently, this was the place that they were at was owned by the Irvings, but not necessarily near their residence. So it might have been someplace out in New Brunswick country where the nearest neighbor is 20 miles away, 20 kilometers away. I guess with this big sprawling thing, probably I would assume. So yeah, so unless well, I mean, don't arrange to drink too much so you don't have to stay there. That's how you avoid the semblance of conflict of interest. So really the only one is that there was a terrible storm and we all got shut in. I thought it would have been inappropriate to call the Coast Guard to fly me out personally.
Yeah.
Other than that, there's always a way to arrange your affairs.
Yeah.
So that, again, the rule is avoid even the semblance of conflicts of interest. So if you're going to go to the party and drink too much, which you probably shouldn't do anyway, because that opens the door to say, well, he was influenceable because he was in possession of all his faculties. So don't even do that. But were you to do that, make sure that you do have a driver. So therefore, there's no reason for you to have to stay. These are all things you can plan in advance. There are no excuse for it. Because, listen, if we're expecting them to be responsible adults, we can't turn around and go, well, I didn't know what I forgot to look at the time. Then you should have set an alarm.
Mm-hmm.
If you thought it was going to be an event where you were going to have so much fun that you could lose track of time, you should have set an alarm. And you probably should have even doubled up again. You have a whole team to help you think of these things.
Well, true. That's true. It's not.
Everything is pre-planned.
You're not a university kid who's last minute going, oh shit, what am I going to do? Right? This is all well organized and thought well in advance. So your excuses are.
So, I mean, and I understand that we're all human and not all systems are perfect. And yes, there could be something that happens. Yes, that happens once in a while like this. But, it's like,
yeah.
Now, at this time of year, right now, with all that's going on, really, judgment, discernment and judgment, man, people are having trouble with it. They're just having trouble with it today. It seems rather obvious that you just don't do that, but oh well. So, well, I have an ethics screen and everybody knows I know the Irvings. What's going to matter? It still matters. Stop doing this shit. Stop tripping over the flowers in the carpet pattern. These are unforced errors. And this is why people are getting tired of you guys, because it's like, listen, you live in a world with Putin and Trump and Erdogan and Modi. There's enough people out there trying to trip you up without you doing it to yourselves.
More than enough.
Come on, man. All right. What else do we have for you, kits and cubs? That'd be interesting. I didn't know. I missed that. It seems that Blanchet has, since the Prime Minister's not offering year-end interviews, the spaces have opened up. And Blanchet offered one up to iPolitics to chat about his beliefs that Quebec is halfway to sovereignty. Okay. I'm going to have to read that one. Other things going on, kits and cubs, that you should know about. I heard, I saw on the chat yesterday, by the way, I forgot to mention it, that Kit Lori Sue had been admitted to hospital. So I don't know if they are have cell phone where they are and are able to listen from their bed or whatnot. But we are sending you lots of love and healing. We don't need to be nosy and know what it is, but you are there and we care. So we hope that whatever it is, you it is routine and handled very quickly and efficiently, and you are back to your usual self in no time flat. And Kit, Linda M. We were talking about the World Juniors yesterday, and she wrote, "Watching Canada Juniors has given me an ulcer." And we'll talk a little bit about them a little later here on the show. So yeah, that's the Atlantic Caucus and the Ontario Caucus asking for the Prime Minister to step down. It's in a piece of good news for the Finance Minister, because it is always helpful to have something to change the channel. He has announced that the deadline for making charitable donations for the 2024 calendar year to qualify for a tax receipt for tax purposes will be extended until February 28th of 2025 in order to compensate for the loss of revenue that charities have suffered during the Canada Post strike, because that is the period of the year where these not-for-profit organizations sometimes raise the bulk of their annual budgets. And groups like the Salvation Army, for example, have reported that their donations have dropped by greater than half this year as a result of this. So this is a very, 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 very good and smart move. So Kits and Cubs, if you did not have the opportunity to donate to your favorite charity, to do your holiday giving as you usually would this year because of the Canada Post strike, and you do it in part to get the tax receipt, well, if you do make your donations up until the end of February 28th, the tax receipt that you get will be able to be applied on your 2024 taxes, even though you made the expense in 2025. Kind of like when you make your RSP payment. In the first few months, but you still get the receipt to use for the following tax. It would be a similar principle here that you would be doing. And for all the cynics out there that are going, because I saw this, oh yeah, right, Dominic, so people can donate more to your political party because you guys are doing so terribly. Okay, number one, that logic only applies if he had announced that the extension would apply to donations only to the Liberal Party, not all the others. If he's looking for benefit for his party, he would not be affording the same benefit to all the other parties, particularly the Conservative Party that raises more money than God.
I didn't know God needed money.
Yes, exactly. So clearly, well, yeah, for the new temple, the new revival church, the new speaker system needed. The last one blew with the pyrotechnics. Because, yes, praising Jesus is about electric guitars and pyrotechnics. So,
for a long time.
Not saying you can't praise Jesus that way. But, so, yeah. They're extending it, and just for good purpose, because like when I told you, right, people plan, expressly excluded from benefiting from this are donations to political parties. The extension was drawn up every charity except political parties. So, yeah, you liberals are just doing that to pad your own coffers because you're doing so terribly. No political party benefits. That's even better that all political parties benefit. We didn't single ourselves out. None do. So you got nothing. Like nothing at all. Well-designed policy. Needed.
Well,
see, it can be done. You just have to think it through. Somebody there thought when they designed that, oh, well, they're going to say your political parties are just trying to advantage yourself. So they remove themselves from it. So really it is all about the charities. No noise. Nothing gets in the way of this news. This is, as we call in PR, a perfect announcement.
Well,
well done.
I can't say I argue with that. I never liked the idea of the GST holiday to begin with, but if some good can come of it, I think, this is a positive thing. As charities, like you say, they didn't receive their funding that they normally would from donations because of the strike, which, let's remind everybody, the strike only occurred in the manner that it did because the management locked out the employees. They never meant to go full shut down the entire system of Canada Post. That was never the mail carrier's intention. They were going to have like rolling labor force markets where they would petition and patrol and let people know they were striking, but they were still going to be going to work to get the mail through until they were locked out by management. And then you have people across the country screaming at Canada Post. Thankfully, though, I noticed that most of the voices that I seem to encounter were in support of them. There was some dissenters, of course. They're like that hate unions, and I get it. Maybe you were harmed by a union. I don't know. Did the union show us on the doll where the union harmed you? But the thing is this, without unions, we don't have a weekend. We have 80-hour work weeks. We don't have vacation. We don't have the things we have. So don't get mad at the letter carriers. Get mad at management, because it was management that did this.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Management blew past every reasonable offer by the union.
Yep, every single one. So,
yep.
Now, I have, you said something earlier about praising Jesus, and I thought I would share something here that I thought was really strange.
Okay.
From December 27th. This is a very strange tweet from Pierre Poilievre. Merry Christmas from my children and me.
Yes.
What?
Yes. That was the other part. Yes. Like I said, there was so much yesterday when I was saying like the gossip stuff. There was so much gossip. That was another part of it. Merry Christmas for my children and me. Maybe this explains why it is we do not know where Poilievre went for Christmas this year and perhaps last year.
Well, and
Christmas look at the photo.
The Christmas greeting card is from Thanksgiving in a pumpkin patch.
It's a fall greeting. So this makes 2 years in a row now that Pierre Poilievre recycles a greeting. Last year, he recycled the eggnog video in which Anida looks completely repulsed that he even wants to get like within 3 feet of her throughout the entire time, in which he like directly insults her culture too.
Yeah,
just casually in the middle of it, and we see the claw, and the claw keep on going to grab her shoulder and pulling her towards him. And she's like, so he recycled that one, and this year, because he can't recycle that one again, I guess he recycled a Thanksgiving picture. I guess, and the greetings from her don't come from the
family, me and my children. So, well, okay, that's interesting, Jason. He says he's in Russia. I heard he was in India. I don't know. We can't send him down.
A couple of days after Christmas, he was in a synagogue, a temple here with Melissa Landsman, because that worked out for him the last time he did that.
Yeah.
That's when he had that thing with a reporter inside a temple.
Yes, in the synagogue.
Yeah. Way to go, buddy. Yeah, you really do respect the Jewish people. Seriously, like that's another thing. With all the things that he makes Landsman do, how can anybody believe that man likes Jewish people? Oh my God. Gee, he can't vote for a whole Holocaust museum. He can't vote for a Jewish community center. He doesn't disavow the Sun when they print that horrible caricature of Zelensky picking Biden's pocket where they make and draw him with the big nose and all the Semitic features, the stereotypical Semitic features. He says he frequently spouts WEF anti-George Soros globalist theory, which is inherently anti-Semitic. He prevented all MPs from attending first day of Hanukkah ceremonies this year. But he's a friend of the Jews. How? How? How is he a friend or an ally? In what
Because he
way?
says he is. That's it. That's it. That's all. He just says he is. He wants you to believe what he tells you. He wants you to believe his lies. That's it. That's all. Nothing more.
It's just, there's like so much evidence of him. He's not your friend. You should hear what he says about you when you're not there. Jeez. It's like a man who can't vote for your interests is not on your side. He couldn't even vote to support a Holocaust museum. Come on. That one's a layup.
Should be.
Especially in Canada.
I mean, come on, right? How difficult can this be?
Come on.
I'll be right back.
All right. This guy, I tell you. And also, Kitland M, I just saw in the chat because I'm a little behind. That unfortunately, you also lost a friend that was dear to you, passed while in hospice, and I've seen all the expressions of sympathy on the chat from the Kits and Cubs, and you have ours as well. Of course, that's never easy. So yes. Big hugs to you, and of course, all of your friends, family, and those who cared and loved for them. Okay, let's see what else do we have for you here, Kits and Cubs, in our news. Oops. Okay, and there we go. My drafts. That's where all my notes are. Okay, here in Ontario. On January 1st, Ontario, according to the Ontarians with Disabilities Act, which was passed 20 years ago, was supposed to be completely barrier-free. The act mandates that workplaces, stores, and public transit should be fully accessible. That, of course, may not be completely the case yet across all of Ontario. And it seems, unfortunately, that there will be no consequences, and that there is no consequences for breaking this law. There are penalties on the book for violating the act of $50,000 a day for individuals or $100,000 a day for a corporation. But Raymond Cho, Ontario's Minister for Seniors and Accessibility, says, quote, "We don't believe in punishment. We believe in education," indicating that the rules will not be enforced. Well, here's the thing. If it's been 20 years of non-enforcement and education, and the act is not, and things are not such that 20 years after the act, that all of Ontario is indeed barrier-free, then maybe somewhere along the way, you should have believed in some punishment and not just education. It also kind of sends the message that people with disabilities are not important enough to warrant the government making the effort of levying consequences on business for not making the world accessible. Not a great message to send, unfortunately. In British Columbia, there will be some important change on the January 1st. Buyers and sellers of homes will be subjected to the BC home flipping tax if they've owned the property for fewer than 2 years. The penalty will be of 20% if they resell in the first year, and gradually declining over time until it reaches zero after 730 days passed. The point is to discourage people from holding property short-term in order to turn a quick profit. The province predicts that about 4,000 properties might be taxed with money raised going to build affordable housing. However, many critics are saying that this won't help all that much because a big chunk of the properties that that had renovation potential for flipping have probably been renovated and flipped already over the past few decades, as this has become a craze and they finally got around to instituting a law. At the World Juniors, which are given our dear Linda and Ulcer. It seems that the star so far for Team Canada is goaltender Carter George, who played in the first match against Finland, which Canada won 4-0, and the match against Germany, which Canada won 3-0. for his second straight shutout, stopping 25 shots in the second match against Germany. It seems that they had put a different goaltender for Team Canada for the match against Latvia. So Carter George all of a sudden is being talked about a lot Canada-wise. It seems that this has been a interesting World Juniors not only for Team Canada but for Team USA as well, because they had a surprising loss 4-3 to Finland the other day. So that's how Team Canada and Team USA ended up tied at the standings with 7 points each after the first three matches. And with the United States ahead of Canada, because Canada hasn't been scoring many goals at all. Goal production has been quite low. But of course, thanks to Carter George, goals, it also has the lowest goals against of all the teams in the tournament. So, you've only scored 9 goals, but you've only allowed 3 in. 9 is not a lot, but it's 3 times more goals than you've let in. There's hardly any other teams that have scored 3 times more goals than they've let in. So, yeah. And the other thing is, because I was surprised that Finland lost 4-0 to Canada because Finland's a good team. Well, if Canada beat Finland 4-0, but then lost 3-2 to Latvia, because mainly because Latvia had a goalie that was standing on his head. I think he said 62 shots. He stopped. And then has a, quote, uninspiring game against Germany. But the United States, who has been steamrolling through, all of a sudden loses 4-3 to Finland, who we beat 4-0.
Yeah, it's bizarre.
Are we good or are we not good? Are we inspired or are we not? I don't know.
You look at all of the stats in this, and I'm like, none of this makes sense. So I don't know.
So is Team Canada actually listless because they beat Finland 4-0 and Finland just beat the United States for
overtime, but still.
Yeah. Who knows? But the Canada versus United States match, yay, is going to be at 8 o'clock this evening, Eastern Standard Time, live from Ottawa. And the winner will clinch first place in the pool and have a most favorable draw for the playoffs, because they get to play the team in fourth place in the other pool in the first round. So go Canada, go. Because if you can't find inspiration to take on the United States, well, can you?
Tomorrow's the first, isn't it?
Tomorrow is the first.
Shit.
Yes, indeed. No, sorry.
Shit.
Why?
Bills to pay.
Yes. See, Mr. Grizzly, I'm a rainbow beaver. You can't say bills and not get me to think about Beyonce.
Can
you pay my bills? Can you pay my telephone bills?
I gotta figure out how to pay some of mine.
All right. A little bit of international news. According to my beaver sweetie, because I did not read up on this about myself, but it seems that Romania and Bulgaria are about to accede to what's called the Schengen zone within the European Union, which means they will be part of the countries within the Union that you can travel to from within the Union without a passport and that type of stuff. So not quite to the point where they're getting the euro yet as their main. So they're still doing the process of, bringing their economy in line with everybody else's. But they have made enough changes, I guess, legally to prevent corruption and all that kind of stuff that they've taken an extra step within the membership. So the EU bloc gets solidified a little bit more with Romania and Bulgaria accessing the Schengen zone. So just a little bit of interesting news there. It also seems that Belgium is doing some really interesting things. It becomes the first European country to ban disposable electronic cigarettes or vapes. I'm not sure if it's like a total ban or just in certain places, but they're putting some bans in place, and they are pressing the EU to adopt tougher anti-smoking rules across the entire bloc. And it also seems that Belgium has recently passed a law to make sex trade work legal.
Interesting.
It follows. So there was a decision in 2022 from in Belgium to decriminalize sex work. So this builds on that. But according to Euronews.com, it says the title of the article is "Sex Workers in Belgium Gain Historic Labor Rights as New Laws Take Effect." The new law in Belgium, which came into force over the weekend, so that would be early December that this happened, grants sex workers formal employment contracts and legal protections similar to other workers. In a legal breakthrough some are calling a revolution, sex workers in Belgium can now sign formal employment contracts and gain labor rights equal to those in other professions. The new law also grants sex workers fundamental rights, including the ability to refuse clients, choose their practices, and stop any act at any time. Belgian lawmakers voted on the law in May, which has come into effect Sunday. That would probably the first Sunday in December. It follows Belgium's 2022 decision to decriminalize sex work. The law aims to combat abuse and exploitation within the industry, ensuring sex workers now have access to health insurance, paid leave, maternity benefits, unemployment support, and pensions. The legislation also establishes rules on working hours, pay, and safety measures, addressing a long-standing gap in legal protection for those in the industry. Employers must now obtain authorization, adhere to strict safety protocols, and meet background requirements, including no prior convictions for sexual assault or human trafficking. They must provide clean linens, condoms, and hygiene products, and install emergency buttons in workspaces. Independent sex work remains permitted, but unregulated third-party hiring or violations of the legal framework will be prosecuted. So independent sex work is permitted, but unregulated third-party hiring or violations will be prosecuted. However, some critics argue the law cannot fully address the stigma and risks tied to sex work, especially those for those without documentation. Though some countries like Germany or the Netherlands have legalized sex work, none have implemented labor protections as comprehensive as Belgium's. So there you go.
That's interesting. And I know that Australia did something to that effect many years ago, but I don't know the details behind it. They have legal brothels in Australia for probably almost 30 years.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's quite a long time. I could be wrong on the number, but to what degree I don't know. But yeah, the legal brothels, and I believe they have something similar package-wise for social safety net, if you will, as they do, as Belgium has just brought in. But don't quote me on that. Not my jam. Try and keep on top of the news, but I don't know fully all the details of that. Maybe we could get Pete to chime in someday, but let us know about that. Be our Australian, our South Pacific reporter.
Yes, but pretty cool. A couple of other things going on. These are things going on in the world. Canada has been relatively slow news day, to be totally honest. It seems that for those who have heard, there was this is related to Canada in a way. But U.S. investigators are joining local authorities in South Korea to find the cause of what is the worst aviation disaster to ever take place on the country's soil. The boxes have been found and retrieved. They're being analyzed. But it seems that an apparent bird strike is what caused the accident. The plane aborted a first attempt to land, and apparently Mayday calls were made 3 times. And on the second landing attempt, the Boeing 737-808, operated by Jeju Air, skidded off the end of the runway when landing gear did not deploy, and it crashed into a concrete wall, killing all but 2 of the 181 people on board. Fingerprints and DNA had to be used to identify the victims. As of last night's news, about 30 still remained to be ID'd. 7 days of mourning have been declared in the country. Now, this is related to Canada because very recently, I think it was on Saturday, St. John's Airport has announced that it was investigating debris that was found on a runway, which was the same day that an Air Canada flight from St. John's skidded on a runway upon landing in Halifax after one of its engines caught fire. Some passengers had suffered minor injuries, and now officials in St. John's are trying to figure out whether the incident in South Korea and the incident in Halifax are connected somehow.
I don't know. I don't know. It's possible.
Yeah. Possible, but there's enough similar that they're worried and that they're looking into this. So we could find out more in a way. Also in South Korea, things, man, somebody needs to write a movie about what's going on there, and we need to bring this to the screen. Because in South Korea, it seems that lawyers for the country's impeached president Yoon Suk-yeol, who tried to impose martial law in the middle of the night because he was frustrated because he couldn't get his agenda through. Because I guess in politics now is if you can't persuade people to adopt your agenda rather than making concessions, you impose martial law.
That's not democracy.
Yeah, exactly. Well, it seems that his lawyers are calling that an arrest warrant against their client illegal and invalid. The former president is being investigated for inciting an insurrection following his attempt to impose martial law earlier this month. Supportive crowds have gathered near his residence to protest, but the former president has ignored not one, not two, but 3 summons to appear for questioning. The country's finance minister is now leading the nation in the interim after the interim president was also impeached for allegedly being too willing to help the impeached president impose martial law. It seems that the opposition is also threatening to impeach the finance minister. Now, it seems that in South Korea, impeachment itself is not enough. The impeachment then has to go to the country's top constitutional court to be validated or accepted. So that phase still has not taken place. So even though he is, the impeachment is not a fully thing yet.
It has no teeth.
So, yes.
Look, they impeached Trump, 3 times?
Yes, but they didn't even, that was they did the impeachment trial, but they didn't find him guilty. This guy, they found him guilty, and still it has to go to a court to be validated. It's like, please write your laws so you can get rid of people. So it seems, and look at this, not only does it have to go to the country's top constitutional court, but it just so happens, what are the odds that there are 3 vacancies on the top constitutional court's bench? So they need to be filled at this particular time, which doesn't open the door at all to any corruption or even accusations of corruption, even if there are not any. We need to impeach you, so we've impeached you. Now it needs to go to a court, but the court happens to be missing 3 judges that we need to appoint now. Gee, what are the odds that somebody's going to spin this, that we name 3 judges that are already in the bag to impeach you, causing a further constitutional crisis? That was really helpful, people. Oh my God. No wonder the guy's ignoring the summons. If I had no morals and no scruples and I'd see that opportunity, I would too. Well, wait a minute. Wait, there are 3 judges missing on the court to confirm this thing? And now I can spend the next months just criticizing the process and how they're appointing and the motives of putting the motives of all the people making the appointments on trial. And hey, maybe borrow page from Trump and raise money, grift off that. Oh yeah, I'm signing on to that. Let's see how long we can extend this. Let's find a reason for which every potential nomination can be unacceptable, and try that in the court of public opinion before they even nominate. Which I could make that last year's. Fill the spaces on your courts, people. Especially your top constitutional court. It's so hard to get rid of bad leaders.
I know.
Some good news in terms of trying to get rid of a bad leader. Today is the last day that Russia's big company Gazprom will pump gas to Europe via Ukraine. It had been flowing, amazingly, during the past 3 years of war, thanks to the gas transit agreement between the warring nations. But Ukraine is now unwilling to negotiate new terms as the deal is expiring. So it marks the end of Moscow's mighty hold on European gas markets. Ukraine will be foregoing willingly about $800 million a year in fees from Moscow because Zelensky says that Ukraine can no longer allow Russia to finance its war off the backs of Ukrainians. Slovakia and Hungary are going to be the nations of the EU that are going to have the biggest problem with this because they're the most reliable. In the case of Hungary, I'm sure that President Zelensky is totally heartbroken because Orban has been so helpful.
Well, you've got to remember,
to
Viktor
the Ukrainian
Orban
cause.
Best buddies with Trump and former Prime Minister Stephen Harper.
You could just see Zelensky on the phone. Victor,
Are you pouring whiskey in your coffee? Because you might need it after this.
I might. I wish it was, but no, it's just water. But can you just imagine? No, Victor. I understand that this will be tough for you. No, really, but I have to do it for. I have to do it for the good of the continent. No, I'm really broken up. No, trust me. I know. I like this, and if there's anything I can do to help. What? I'm sure the fact that Orban is particularly inconvenienced by this just happened to be a very nice bonus.
It happens
for President Zelensky. I'm not too sure whether or not the head of Slovakia is also pro-Russia, so I won't speculate because I'm not that informed.
I'm going to speculate that he's not pro-Russia.
I would speculate, but there are a couple of countries in that bloc that are.
Belarus.
It's not just Ukraine. It's not just Hungary. There are 2 or 3 in there. So, and I'm not sure of all the nations that made the former Yugoslavia where they all stand, because I think Serbia is still a little bit more pro-Russian because Putin has been really helping Serbia apparently financially over the years. And so to try to maintain that link, that loyalty link within the EU bloc. So, but I don't know if that's the same for Slovakia and Bosnia and all those smaller nations in that area. But Hungary, I do know. So, too bad, so sad. Oh well. So yeah, this could cause gas prices to spike, of course, in the area. Now, the nation for which this is a major blow, for which I'm not happy that this is the case, is Moldova, which is known to be the poorest nation in Europe. It's also probably before going after Estonia, Lithuania, and Latvia. If Putin was successful in Ukraine, he'd probably go for Moldova first. It borders right on Russia, and like I said, and there's not much, it's completely on one other side by Romania, so it's not like everything that has to. Now, Romania is a NATO country and whatnot, but everything has to go through all Europe from east to west. From west to east to get to Moldova, and then so it's and the country doesn't have a lot of resources and a lot of defense, and so yeah. So Moldova is, hopefully the EU will be able to rally together to try and help Moldova at least with that. But in Moldova, they're not framing it as an energy crisis. They're framing it as a security crisis, which is probably the more strategic way to do it in nation. In Syria, the new leader says it could take up to 4 years before democratic elections can be held because the nation hasn't had a proper census in years and a new constitution needs to be passed. So yeah, 4 years he's trying to keep it. Well, it seems that there are certain things that need to be done before they can do that. He says he hopes to hold a national conference to set an agenda, and at said conference he states he plans to announce the dissolution of the group that he leads. So HTS would be no more once that national conference takes place. Yeah. He says the time of revolution is over and the time for nation building has begun. So again, still saying
the right things. I'm hopeful. I'm very hopeful. And I spoke to a friend of mine about that just the other day who works in counterterrorism. And he said, look, he's saying the right things and we're all listening, but we're also being very cautious. I'm like, yeah, understandable. He says every country is saying, well, he's saying the right things right now. Let's see if he will follow through. Let's see what happens.
Mhm.
Everybody is approaching it with kid gloves because we don't know. But he continues to say and do the right things.
Well, here's another thing that adds to that column. And this didn't make a lot of news, but according to Al Jazeera, Syria's de facto new leader, Ahmad al-Shara, we were calling him Abu Abad, Mohammed Abu al-Jalani. That was his name there. And al-Jalani has a reference to the Golan Heights. But I'm guessing that Ahmad al-Shara is his maybe birth name. So he's not referring to himself now as his warrior name, but as his own name. Again, as another sign that he's willing to make these moves. So Syria's de facto new leader, Ahmad al-Shara, and other officials have held talks with Ukraine's foreign minister in one of the most consequential visits since the fall of Bashar al-Assad on December 8th. Syria hopes for, quote, strategic partnerships with Ukraine. Russia helped al-Assad keep our country down. So now that we're liberated, knock, knock, knock. Hello, Zelensky. Would you like our help now?
Funny how that works out.
There's a plot twist I did not see coming because, Putin went and got North Koreans and said, whoa, okay. If Ukrainians get Syrians, and I'm sure Syrians have no love for Putin.
Well, they have no love for Putin and they have no love for Assad. And Assad is in Moscow. Although his wife split, she went back to the UK because she wanted no part of Moscow, apparently, because she didn't get to live the rather luxurious lifestyle she's been accustomed to. So she was only a friend for the money.
Famous. Na, 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 na. So, yeah. Yes. Life is cold, isn't it, Bashar? Life is cold. Comes at you fast, doesn't it? So, yes, Syria hopes for strategic partnership with Ukraine. Its newly appointed foreign minister, Asad Hassan al-Shibani, told his Ukrainian counterpart, Andriy Sybiha, in Damascus on Monday. So, people from Ukraine flew to Damascus. Interesting. Quote, certainly the Syrian people and the Ukraine people have the same experience and the same suffering that we endured over 14 years, he added, drawing parallels between Syria's 2011 to 2024 war and Russia's seizure of Ukraine territory in 2014, culminating in its full-scale 2022 invasion. Russia was a staunch ally of President al-Assad and has given him political asylum. Quote, we look forward to mutual recognition of the sovereignty of the two countries so that we can complete diplomatic representation in Syria, Sybiha said at a news conference after his Ukrainian delegation met with Syrian leaders. Quote, we believe Ukrainian-Syrian relations will witness great development, he added. The visit comes after President Volodymyr Zelensky said on Friday that his country had sent its first batch of food aid, 500 tons of wheat flour, to Syria. Despite its war with Russia, Ukraine remains one of the world's top wheat producers. Quote, Ukraine will remain a linchpin to food security in Syria even if our country is engaged in war, Sybiha said. Russia had been providing wheat to Syria through intricate financial and logistical mechanisms designed to bypass Western sanctions on both Moscow and Damascus. But according to a report by Reuters' news agency, these shipments have been halted due to uncertainty surrounding the new government in Damascus and delays in payments. Ukraine, which has been battling invading Russian forces for nearly 3 years, has said it wants to restore relations with Syria. Quote, the Russian and Assad regimes supported each other because they were based on violence and torture, Sybiha said, according to a statement. We believe that from a strategic point of view, the removal of Russia's presence in Syria will contribute to the stability of not only the Syrian state, but the entire Middle East and Africa. Despite Moscow's backing for al-Assad, al-Shara on Sunday noted, quote, the deep strategic interests between Russia and Syria, and in an interview with the Al Arabiya TV channel. All Syria's arms are of Russian origin, and many power plants are managed by Russian experts. We do not want Russia to leave Syria in the way that some wish, al-Shara added. Opposition fighters led by al-Shara's Hayat Tahrir al-Sham launched an offensive on November 27th, which saw them take a number of key cities in quick succession before seizing the capital Damascus 11 days later, or within one Scaramucci, sending al-Assad fleeing to Russia. So yes, really interesting movements here And it seems that the Syrians do not want to alienate any key players. Quote, they want to have ties with the Russians, the Turks, the Qataris, the Emiratis. The problem is just that some of them don't see eye to eye, says Al Jazeera's Hashem Al-Helbara, who's reporting from Damascus here on that one. But the two disagree over many issues. That's talking about Russia, Americans and Russians, because they both have military bases in Syria, but both of them disagree. So it's going to be hard for them to come to some type of agreement, I'm guessing, at the moment. That's Russia and the States about what to do about the bases in Syria. But yeah, really, really interesting here. Let's see, what else do we have? The ousting of al-Assad has thrown the future of Russia's military bases in Syria into question. The Tartus naval base and the, I cannot pronounce that, Khmim Air Base are Russia's only military outposts outside the former Soviet Union and have been key to the Kremlin's activities in Africa and the Middle East. Quote, if Russia loses Syria and its ports in the Tartus and Latakia, it would create huge problems for Russian interests also in Africa, political analyst Dmitry Bridge told Al Jazeera, adding that Russia is likely to strike a deal with the United States over its bases once President-elect Trump comes to power. He and Russia is likely to see, he said Russia is likely to see the Ukrainian visit, quote, as an extension of the West's strategy to undermine Russian influence. Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov has said the status of Russian military bases would be the subject of negotiations with new leadership in Damascus. Quote, what is clear is that the fight for influence in Syria is now on, Al Jazeera's Dorsa Jabari said, reporting from Moscow. So interesting movement of some chess pieces over there.
Mm-hmm.
And finally, do I have two? Yeah, three more little things. No, sorry. Two more. To the United States, President Biden has decided to go out with a bigger bang on the whole pardons front. It seems that he's commuted a lot of sentences, but particularly with regard to the death penalty, it seems that there are 40 inmates in the United States that have currently been given the death penalty, and President Biden has commuted the sentences of 37 of them. That does not mean they go free. It just means that their sentence gets changed from the death penalty to life in prison without parole. The three exceptions he made were for the shooter at the Tree of Life Synagogue,
Mm-hmm.
the shooter at the Mother Emanuel Church, and the Boston Marathon bomber. So people that committed mass murders with weapons or terrorists are the only one. Everyone else got it. And the reason he did that is that it seems that since the death penalty has been reinstituted in the United States, because it wasn't for a while, there were
It's been
only
around for a long time.
It's been a long time.
Years.
Yeah. But there were only like 2 or 3 people that had been executed in that period. And Trump, in the last 6 months of his presidency, had 13 people executed. So President Biden commuted the sentences of 37 out of 40 to make sure that Trump could not do that. So there's nobody for him to kill except them 3.
Interesting. I still say he should step down today and then let Kamala Harris be president for the next few weeks, so that she'll be the 47th, and then Trump's all his 47 MAGA stuff has to get tossed in the garbage, and he'll have to print new stuff because he'd be 48. I'm like, there's a petty part of me that would love to see that happen, right?
I'll do it for you since you can't, Mr. Grizzly.
Like, my God, that would be so just the icing on the cake, right?
Finger looking good. See? We could be petty. And the last little bit, since we were talking about Jimmy Carter, you had mentioned, showed the photo. I don't know if you had showed the photo, but Jimmy Carter had ushered in the era of green energy by placing solar panels on the roof of the White House. But he also significantly increased the exploitation of coal.
Yes,
which got us a little bit in the mess that we are today. So just as people are talking about that, offer the whole balance. Prime Minister Trudeau praised Carter for supporting peace and human rights around the globe because he had put together the Camp David Accords, as we mentioned. He forged President Biden, in another address talking about him, stated specifically, he forged peace and advanced civil rights, human rights, promoted free and fair elections around the world. He built housing for the homeless with his own hands, and his compassion and moral clarity lifts people up and change lives and save lives all over the globe. Yesterday, I mentioned that even Prince Charles took a moment to pay him tribute. Yesterday, the UN Security Council also had a minute of silence on Monday in honor of him, given what he did for the world in terms of the Camp David Accords and bringing some peace between Israel and Egypt. Quote, the UN Security Council statement said, President Carter was a peacemaker who worked tirelessly and effectively in support of conflict mediation, the furtherance of human rights, and strengthening of democracy, both while he was in office and thereafter. And President Biden has declared that January 9th will be a national day of mourning in the United States. So that is all the news that I have for you today. It's every single note that I've made over the past. So I actually got it all in today.
Well, I don't make notes. I just peruse my timeline and look at things that come across my feed. And I've got one here. This is from a couple of days ago, but we didn't get a chance to talk about this, so I thought I'd talk about it now. Kevin O'Leary, he likes to call himself Mr. Wonderful. If you call yourself Mr. Wonderful, are you? He says he'll go to Mar-a-Lago to start the narrative, in quotations, about merging Canada with the United States because we don't want Trudeau negotiating this deal. Think about the power of combining the two economies, O'Leary said. Common currency, open trade, EU-type passport. Okay, so the first thing is Kevin O'Leary is not in the government of Canada or part of the government of Canada. He cannot negotiate for Canada on anything that has to do with national policy in any way, shape, or form. He can negotiate for his company, and that's it. So Kevin O'Leary, shut your pie hole. You obnoxious prick.
Yep. That was another one of the gossip things that I could have added yesterday. Olexit. I mean, I saw that thing since I saw that too, and that's the first thing I was like giggling to on behalf of who?
Yeah, exactly.
Who sent you? So he had revised that. And the later one says he wants to go and start to build the narrative now. So he's not going to negotiate. He's going to wants to go to build the narrative. And somebody posted something like this, but I thought it was a damn good question. So when you travel to another country to take it upon yourself to negotiate the dissolution of yours, is that sedition or treason?
It's one or the other, because we haven't voted on this.
Is there, okay, if there's somebody that's...
Can we charge him with something? If there's a lawyer, can we, you know?
Is there somebody that, if there's somebody that understand, I understand words, but if there's somebody that understands words legally and could tell us whether that constitutes one or the other, I'd be very curious. My inquiring mind would really like to know.
So, and we go from that to another non-elected individual who has been consulting with the government, and he's in a position to say this because of what his past profession was. This is from Mark Carney. Now, this is from some time ago, but I'm going to read it again because I think it's important to remember this. We have an opposition who's leading in the polls, who doesn't understand the economy, doesn't understand where the world's going, doesn't understand what's necessary to build this economy for Canadians who think it's a series of simplistic slogans. There's nothing behind those slogans. Now, Mark Carney is not speaking on behalf of the government. He's a private citizen speaking out against a government official.
Right.
Compare and contrast that with what Kevin O'Leary wants to do.
Right. Right. Yep. You can oppose policy.
Mm-hmm.
You don't go running to another nation and say, hey, Canada doesn't need to exist anymore. Let's start hammering out the terms. Nobody asked you to do this, Poodle.
Well,
so you know what's going on here. You know what's going on here. This is O'Leary getting some wind. There might be some trouble in paradise, given that Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy decided to speak of people.
HB1 visas.
Yes, but they decided to speak of Americans, white Retrumplican Americans, the way they speak of people who look like Vivek, as I said, call them lazy and just not smart enough and even too dumb to be trained or educated to take the jobs. So they're basically saying, these tech bros are going, everybody else you need to cut and you can't have immigration, but for our businesses, we still need the 0.1% of top talent from all around the world, because fuck no, we're not going to screw our economic bottom line as tech people. We'll screw up everybody else's industry by eliminating immigration. Agriculture, sure, screw that. Service industry, screw that. But tech, oh hell no. We need the best minds. So we're going to keep having that advantage that everybody else, we're denying the rest of you, but we're going to keep that for ourselves because there isn't value in it for us.
Mm-hmm.
And you're all too fat and lazy and dumb and self-indulgent, and we couldn't even train you if we tried, because that would go over well, they thought. If I just explain it to them rationally, how we need the best minds and that's going to help America. Hey, Americans, you're too fat, lazy, and stupid to do the good job, so we have to get the people that we said that we were not going to get to give you those jobs to do the jobs that we think you're too stupid to do in order to make sure that America's the best, okay? Yeah, then we're open to that argument. If you haven't noticed, these people are not particularly open to arguments. Okay? So you promised them no immigrants, then you swallowed yourself from the visas, and then you made an exception for yourselves, claiming that Americans were too dumb to train. So now MAGA tech right is fighting with right. So yeah. I'm guessing at some point tech right is going to take a tumble, because there are more people in right, and there are more people that make small dollar donations than Elon Musk can make. So Trump knows what side the bread is buttered. So I think O'Leary sees a spot open for a billionaire willing to finance another one and be given a nice plum position. And he wants it because, well, God, if there's one person in Canada sure is a frickin' fame whore other than Pierre Poilievre, an attention whore, it's Mr. Wonderful.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So he's auditioning. He's auditioning for Trump. Hey, Trump, businessman to businessman. Hey, you want to take over Canada? Let's talk about how we can make it happen. By the way, could you give me a plum position, more government contracts? Because I, too, would like to be a welfare queen like Elon Musk is. And get all the screen time my little heart desires. Because if you haven't noticed, I've been a little irrelevant since that boat accident.
Yeah. That is why
people don't seem to want to talk to me anymore.
His wife was driving at the time, right? His wife was driving at the time.
Allegedly.
You think that misogynistic prick would allow his wife to drive that boat? Oh, that's just merely speculation on my part.
We're putting the words allegedly all over this.
Pure speculation
all over this.
Part. That allegedly he's a misogynistic prick who wouldn't allow his wife to pilot his boat. Allegedly.
But allegedly take the fall for it.
Yes.
Allegedly.
Yeah.
Allegedly.
So I have one more thing for you. One more thing for you, and then we can go. From G McThink at Red Snoopy 69 on the Twitter.
Oh, I like him.
Yeah. Pierre Poilievre wants to reduce CPP deductions on your paychecks. This will usher in quotations, powerful paychecks. Employers match your CPP deductions. This will be an extra $1 billion or so in the pockets of employers.
Powerful paychecks and impotent pensions.
Galen Weston will get an extra 100. Well, that's just 100 billion. It must be 100 million. Anyway, there's a reason why the rich company owners want Pierre Poilievre. He will put their workers' money into their pockets. Walmart, with 100,000 Canadian employees, will score big. Regular Canadians will lose, but get a couple extra dollars on their checks. And
there's a reason the conservatives want you to think that contribution plans and insurance premiums are taxes. We call them payroll taxes colloquially, but they are not taxes, because when you file your taxes, you get a deduction for those.
Mm-hmm. Well, and it says here, this would be a short-term game on your paycheck, but a big windfall for employers. How many of you And this is
Notice
good.
that sentence doesn't say, though, it kneecaps your pension.
No.
Kneecaps your retirement.
Well, actually,
that's what really matters.
This does say this. He says, how many of you will invest the savings for your retirement?
Because you have to invest whatever you were contributing and your employer's share on top of that. So
Correct.
You got to double your contribution now.
Exactly. So you now have less money in your pocket at the end of your paycheck. You're investing it for the future, yes, but you're going to have to double it up because he's cutting it down so that employers don't pay that. He says, you will not survive on OAS and GIS in retirement. That's about approximately $25,000 a year.
Yeah. So this is not going to help you.
I know people who are already paying more than that in rent.
Yep.
A 2-bedroom in my building, if you get one now, it's $2,400 a month. Do the math. You're not going to survive. So remember, folks, if you vote for Pierre Poilievre, your powerful paycheck will mean that employers will no longer be contributing to your CPP, nor will you. So you might save an extra, a couple $100 a month? Save. But you won't. That money will get spent. And because the employers are not matching the CPP contributions,
and you're no longer contributing to yours.
So you're gonna have to save twice as much. So your powerful paycheck, you're actually getting a hit on this.
Yeah.
Because you'll have to invest your own CPP and then match your employers, so that you get what you had.
Yep. And that's if you keep on making your contribution, right? Whatever you contribute in a year, you take that money, you said, I'm already doing that, and you put it aside in another plan. Because if you stop doing that because you've got money and you need it now your employer's not contributing to your pension and you're not contributing to your pension, guaranteeing that you have to live on OAS or GIS when the time comes. And it's not enough.
Yeah.
He's literally asking you to sell out your future.
Yeah.
To get a couple of bucks now.
Get a couple of bucks now. But forget about retirement. It's not going to happen. He doesn't care. He only cares about power and money. He does not want to govern. He does not want to make life better for Canadians. And he'll give you the thing, groceries are too expensive. We're going to lower the prices of groceries. Didn't Trump run on that? And didn't he say, well, it's really hard to do that once the prices go up? Facepalm.
Oh, God. Yeah. Oh, and since you mentioned that, it made me think, for those, because I forgot it, but Mélanie Joly and Dominique Leblanc, I'm not sure if they're there now, but they were a couple of days ago in Florida meeting with officials from the incoming administration. And a statement from Leblanc's office said they traveled to Palm Beach, where they plan to use the talks to, quote, underscore Canada's efforts to combat fentanyl trafficking and illegal migration measures outlined in Canada's border plan. So the persuasion exercise continues. All right. Do we have a show, Mr. Grizzly?
We do. I just want to something that Shadika sent me a minute ago.
Yes.
Kevin O'Leary.
Oh, my.
Yeah.
Jeez.
He looks like the troll. That's good. That's good.
My God. The resemblance is so striking.
I know. It's disturbing.
All right, kids and cubs. This is the end of today's episode of the Daily Beaver Morning Show here on the Crier Media Network. We hope that you love listening to us because we love making this for you. Remember, sharing is caring and word of mouth is priceless. And you have the mouths from which we want the word to come. So please, 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 please tell your peeps and poops all about us. Spread the good word, spread the beaver. Go ahead. We approve when you do that. Now, if you would like, because, for example, you are listening to us on the podcast version, and you would like to make sure you do not miss another episode, well, you don't have to, because if you scan the QR code that Mr. Grizzly is going to make appear, and while giving thanks to the Ray Girl who made it possible, that will bring you to our pod page. And if you're listening, podpage.com/TheTrueNorthEagerBeaver, lowercase letters with a hyphen between each one of those words. And if you go on there, we have a little button that's called subscribe. And if you click on it, well then, boom, like magic. Almost every day is like Christmas because there's some fresh beaver that just comes and gets delivered right to you for you to enjoy. We are helpful little elves here at the Beaver Lodge. So,
Elf?
hey,
I guess.
daily fresh. We have some very helpful elves here at the Beaver Lodge.
Helpful elves. I'm like,
yes.
I'm a little tall to be an elf, don't you think?
Well, you know,
unless I'm Buddy.
Everything is relative at the Beaver Lodge. It's not always about size, Mr. Grizzly. All right. Oh, naughty, naughty beaver. Okay. And if you would like to support us in other ways, well, then the way you do that is by making like Kit Elaine and grabbing your surfboard and taking a nice little cruise down to the True North Eager Beaver Media Incorporated YouTube page, where our Christmas balls are still there waiting for you to tickle them. So if you would like to tickle our balls, like, share, and subscribe, just go to our page and click on them. And when you do that, we get ourselves a little bit of happy, and we will have that there for you. And as well for you, we will have our Christmas stockings well hung by the chimney with care there until the entire holiday season is over, for you to stuff them with a little show of appreciation should you think that I have been a very good beaver this year, and that Mr. Grizzly's been a good beaver, and that we deserve something in our stocking. We thank you very much for those of you who have contributed so far. As we mentioned yesterday, we have certain targets. Yesterday, I did go and do the math, and we are like a smidge under the target that I had set, and but hey, it was a really ambitious one to start with. So don't worry, you have been very, very good. But if you would like to push us over the top, you can by going to our coffee page. That QR code that Mr. Grizzly made appear there. That helps us a lot. That'll bring you right there. And if you're listening, that's coffee, ko-fi.com/eagerbeaver. And the reason why I say our target is better is because I forgot to add the dollars that we got from the YouTube stuff, which is technically our kits through Super Chat and people viewing and watching us. So technically they are donations as well. So when I added them, I say, oh my God, yes, yeah, we are really, 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 really close to the goal. So thank you, kids and cubs, for all. Again, I will not call it generosity. I will call it enthusiastic and effusive encouragement and support throughout the course of the year. We are grateful for everything that you are able to donate to us. Now, if you are not able to donate financially, don't worry about it, because as we mentioned, the gifts of your attention, your presence, your participation, those are the ones that matter the most, and our cups runneth over with an abundance of that from you. And we thank you for all that you do to make the show better, and we want to hear from you. We really do. So please write to us, truenortheagerbeaver@gmail.com. Kits and Cubs, please send in your submissions if you have any thoughts this year for what is the best stories, the most overrated stories, the politician that impressed you the most, what was for you either the biggest new news in, let's say, sports or arts or science, culture, that type of stuff. Just send us your thoughts. We're looking for them. If it sounds like I'm begging, I am, because I haven't received enough to fill a full show. So
don't worry,
if you
fill airtime.
Oh no, I can too, but I want to be able to say more than like we got. And Kit so and so said this. I'd like to be able to say that throughout the show rather than just on one or two topics. So if you do have some thoughts, please send them to us. truenortheagerbeaver@gmail.com. Write here in review in the subject line. I will do my best to incorporate all of them into the show, the list that I'm preparing for our show tomorrow. To do that, do you want to start a little later tomorrow, Mr. Grizzly?
No reason.
No reason? You want to do 7?
That's fine. I get up at 7 and I'm up. I don't sleep in, dude.
I know that, but I'm thinking our listeners might be partying or celebrating.
Oh, I hadn't thought about that. I don't know. Send me a text later and we'll figure it out.
Okay. Okay. So might be a little later. Keep watching for us. We'll put some programming notes on all our socials, and when we program the show, on our YouTube page, the time will be there. But we will have a light day tomorrow. We'll just ring in the new year and all that good stuff, and just spend some time together. Do a little year-end review. Maybe play some games. Who knows? We'll have some fun. But it'll be a nice, relaxed show to kick off the new year tomorrow. So we hope that you will join us. We'll be here to keep you a little bit of company during the day. All right. Let's see. So that's everything there. Because democracy is something that you do. Remember, kids and cubs, as it becomes the end of the giving season, the need is still there. So if there's anything that you can think of to make sure that those who might have a little less in January could have a little more, given that a lot of people get busy going back to their regular lives, that would be very, very neighborly of you. And we would appreciate that very much. Mr. Grizzly, do you have some words of wisdom?
Not so much words of wisdom as something I want to share that is of no surprise to me, and I think most people will not be surprised by this either. Just change a couple of things here so you'll be able to fully see everything. You can see this on the screen right now. Warning, Russian Media Monitor provides translations of curated clips broadcast by Russian state media for the purposes of analysis of state-controlled propaganda, as well as the coverage of newsworthy information provided on the shows. Translation and exhibition of this material does not constitute approval or certification as to the validity of the statements made in the highlighted shows. Exercise caution and conduct additional research using trusted news organizations to validate the claims and obtain clarification as needed. I'm going to play this clip for you. Russian Media Monitor.
Трамп вежливо сказал, что, мол, все отлично, расширяем границы США. И заметьте, да, как вся Европа тут же что-то так растет. Нерушимость границ. Какая нерушимость?
Ну, у меня лично такое ощущение, что мы вот последние 4 года находились в дурдоме Байдена, а постепенно переходим в цирк Трампа. То, что демонстрирует Трамп, это, вот, мне кажется, во внешней политике в Америке это уже проявлялось, называется теория безумца. Ведь на самом деле вот эти вот заявления про Гренландию, про Панаму, значит, про Канаду, а вообще...
Вот заявление.
Вот вопрос у меня, а Трамп шутит?
Нет.
Не знаем.
Нет, он
не шутит, тоже не знаем. Но самое главное, что
Почему?
он утром может
Во-первых,
проснуться...
это не первый подход к весу, а за этим, конечно, не шутит. А вы что, считаете, я шучу, когда говорю Финляндия, Варшава, Прибалтика,
Нет, мы не шутим.
Молдавия, ну быстро домой.
Таллин.
Таллин, Шмалин. И вы думаете, я шучу, что ли?
Через
Нет?
Нару, прям прямиком.
Все, к Российской империи, все обратно.
Так в том-то и дело,
Кстати, и
он
Аляску потом тоже.
Да.
Во мужик рассуждает, отлично. Надо брать пример.
Надо брать пример, совершенно
И
верно.
поэтому все забирать так
Так
спокойно.
вот, я теперь исхожу из его
Вам Париж
заявления
нравится?
в отношении Париж.
Назначим вас мэром Парижа.
Лондон, поинтереснее.
Хорошо, мэром Лондона. Но Лондон в этот момент уже будет затоплен, поэтому я не уверен, что вам понравится подводная жизнь.
Атлантида, да. Я к тому вот, к тем заявлениям, которые они говорят про переговоры. Сегодня вот наш министр иностранных дел вообще очень красиво все разложил в отношении переговоров. Действительно, они рассуждают о каких-то гарантиях безопасности, о каких-то возможных миротворческих.
Okay. It's a 10-minute clip, so I'm not going to air the entire thing. But basically what it says is Russian state TV experts and other propagandists endorse Trump's invasion of Greenland, Canada, and Panama, which they agree will benefit Russia. Russia's got their man, and it's Donald Trump.
Wow. So just a little bit of a translation there for those to get an idea who are listening at home, because you don't get to see the captions. Trump politely said, "It's all good. We'll be expanding the U.S. borders." Note that the entire Europe is suddenly quiet. The inviolability of borders. What inviolability to me personally? Sorry, not inviolability. It feels like we spent the last 4 years in Biden's madhouse. Now we're gradually transitioning to Trump's circus. What Trump is demonstrating, I think, was already featured in America's foreign policy. It's known as the madman theory. In reality, the statements about Canada, Panama, Greenland, Panama, and Canada, they're awesome statements. I have a question. Is Trump joking? No, he is not joking. And then they're all giggling and laughing.
Mm-hmm.
First of all, it's not the first time approaching this. Secondly, of course, he is not joking. Do you think I'm kidding when I say that Finland, Warsaw, the Baltics, Moldova, we talked about, and I don't know what this last one is, should come back home? Do you think I'm joking? No. They should all rejoin the Russian Empire, and vice versa. Followed by Alaska, by the way. Give it back. I'm sure Trump is going to love that one. So yeah. Oh, man. Tell you, live in interesting times is a curse. All right, kids and cubs. Mr. Grizzly, please, everyone, be kind to and gentle with yourself. And Mr. Grizzly, cue the cock and come back. You are listening to a True North Eager Beaver Media Incorporated podcast. The True North Eager Beaver podcasts are proudly brought to you by our founding sponsors, the Misfit Mysteries from Corvid Moon Publishing, your source for science fiction, fantasy, and cozy mysteries featuring a broad diversity of characters, CanadianTarot.com, their uniquely Canadian online eclectic tarot community, and the Peppermaster, hot pepper sauces made from farm-fresh ingredients to thrill your taste buds and expand your mind. We are grateful to the Crier Media Network for its support, Pete Jarvis for our artwork, and Paul Joseph Something for our opening and closing sequence music. All right, Mr. Grizzly, thanks to Kit Uncover, I have a little bit of beaver news. It would seem that even though we have a housing crisis in Canada, it seems that there was a housing crisis for beavers as well. And it seems that there's been initiatives taken to remedy that too. According to Ashley Joannou of the Canadian Press, it appeared in the Victoria Times Colonist, BC team building 100 beaver starter homes in the name of wetland preservation. In British Columbia's real estate market, many people dream of a turnkey starter home in a prime location. Environmental researchers are hoping the same real estate principles will encourage beavers to move into pre-built homes in some areas of the province and help improve wetlands. More than 70 man-made beaver dams have been installed in interior waterways since the BC Wildlife Federation project launched last year, with the goal of building 100 dams by the end of 2025. Researchers want to test whether beavers will move into the dams over the next several years, lifting the water in the streams to re-wet adjacent lands while encouraging growth of plants like willow and aspen for them to eat. Dam building teams of up to 10 people layered locally sourced mud and branches as well as untreated wood posts to mimic beaver dams on small streams as far east as the Kootenays and west to near Lillooet. Neil Fletcher, the Federation's Director of Conservation Stewardship, said the idea is to build, quote, starter kits of sorts, hoping that beavers will recognize the benefits of building on what has been left for them. Quote, what we're doing is we're basically putting in some furniture for them to get started. It's a bit more turnkey when it comes time for them to either find their way there or just naturally, or to be moved there, which is something else we're looking into. Fletcher said the province's beaver population has dropped over the last few hundred years thanks to the early fur trade and trapping, and many populations have never recovered. Without beavers, he said, water levels can drop, meaning some streams won't connect to their floodplain as they naturally would, but beavers are not returning to areas where they lived before. This place is a dump, they said. Fletcher said the landscape has changed over the centuries, making it harder for them to access food, and often areas don't have enough water for the beavers to feel safe. But how are the schools? Just asking. Beavers really get stuck. Beavers really suck at walking on land. That's true. We also suck at walking in flats, but that's a whole different thing. They're much better in the water, so they don't like to have to go too far to get their food source. And they're a walking hamburger for coyotes, for bears, and all sorts of things that might want to eat them. So a big part of what they need is access to food close to streams, and then ideally a bit of ponded area so that they could set up shop there. Fletcher acknowledges that some beavers can be a nuisance on the land, but said the animals also have many benefits that have begun to be recognized over the last several decades. It's about time you noticed how useful we are. He said some ranchers are interested in whether beaver dams could help get more water on the land base for their cattle. Beavers can also raise groundwater to the point where less water needs to be pumped onto farmers' fields, Fletcher said. There's a whole movement just in the idea that we should be living with these beavers and allowing them to occupy parts of the landscape where we can tolerate them and they can provide a tremendous amount of support to the farmers, he said. So far, no beavers have moved into the dams installed as part of the pilot project, but Fletcher says it will likely take them time enough for food to grow to make some of the sites feel like home. What we're hoping is over the next few years, we'll be establishing enough food resources to make it a suitable site for relocation. Well, on behalf of the beavers of the nation, thank you. A place to call home. Everyone needs it, even beavers. All right.
Alrighty. Well,
Everybody, whatever it is that you're doing to ring in the new year, if you are, please let it be filled with love and laughter and people that you love who also care about you. Mwah. See you tomorrow.
have fun tonight. Whatever you do, we'll see you in the morning.
Happy New Year. And don't drink and drive.